there. It's www.futurecongress.com, and Doc Marquis and just all these people that we've interviewed are going to be there, and it's the 50 top experts in the world. Actually, the 50 top prophecy experts in the world will be there, and it's called futurecongress.com. And so all of our friends that we've made online, we're actually going to be getting to interview live there. And our times are going to be all messed up there. We're interviewing, they set us up for interviews like at 10, 11, 12, 1, and 2. And then we're going to have our regular show from 6 to 8. So we'll do it on Blog Talk so that we don't, or maybe we'll work it out with Troy so that we can do it live during those times or whatever, because I don't know the schedule right offhand of Christians United Network.com or ChristiansUnited.tk or RadioPreacherMan.tk. Also, where you can go for all of the archives, which we've worked very hard on, is www.blogtalkradio.com/RadioPreacherMan. So I know a lot of you are listening via different ways. Some of you are on Justin TV. Some of you are on ChristiansUnited.tk. Some of you are at ChristianBroadcastingNetwork.com. Some of you are at blogtalkradio.com/RadioPreacherMan. So, but the cool thing is that we are on so many different stations and channels, and so we can reach more people, and that's what it's all about. I don't know if my first guest is going to even show up. His name is Dr. Torrey, and he's not what we like to do is bring in people with different views. So I'm not saying that he's a born-again Christian with the Christian ideas that we all have. He's a little metaphysical and things like that, but he makes predictions, and he predicted 9/11. He predicted Katrina. So I want to know what I want to know. I'm getting feedback. That's all right. I want to know what he's predicting. I'm getting feedback. I better close something down. I want to know what he's predicting in the future here, and how all is going to affect the elections, and I'm going to read Troy that I'm getting feedback. Pretty bad echo. So I'm hearing myself like 3 seconds later. I feel like I'm in an airline fuselage or whatever they're called. So anyway, my first guest isn't showing up here. So if anyone that wants to call in, do 661-449-9924. That's 661-449-9924. Anybody calling the report that's up there affected by this storm? We don't know what's going on there. We got to hear what's on the Weather Channel, which is controlled by somebody. So I don't know. I don't know what the heck's going with the country, but this is interesting. I'm ready to read you. I opened right to the Bible. I said, Troy, I need a few seconds to get ready. I said, cool, I'll put on the intro. And I opened right to Isaiah 47. I'm going to read here in a minute. I drink my green tea for my ginseng. My mind's not going so fast today. There, it's gone. Thanks, Troy. The echo's gone. Excuse me while I take a drink. At least it's tea without anything in it. No, I haven't had a drink in over 12 years. What happened was I was a professor of counseling. I have a doctorate in counseling. And I broke my neck, and you can't see it, but I had 7 neck surgeries, and I was a quadriplegic. And then the only thing I could do was blink and pee. That's the only thing I could do. I had no control over any of my body. I couldn't I couldn't wipe my mouth. I couldn't go to the bathroom or anything. So I was a quad for about let's see, 2 weeks or so, and then Brian went to work, and I was stuck on the couch, and I couldn't move. And so what happened is I really wanted to practice, and he told me not to move, that he'll be home like in 2 or 3 hours, because he only worked a couple miles away. So he came home during his breaks and during his lunch breaks and during all of his breaks. So he was home quite often, but I got stuck on the couch, and I lifted myself up somehow, and I took 2 steps and fell down. And he came home, and he found me on the ground, and he said, you're not supposed to be walking, because I can break into my bones again. You're not supposed to be walking. You're not supposed to be moving unless, I'm around. But I was practicing. Well, he got me to the bathroom. He got me cleaned up, and he got back to work. And I practiced again. And this time I made it like 4 steps, and I fell. So that continued for about a month, and then I could finally kind of walk, where I could hang on and use a walker and hang on to it was awful. I couldn't get into a car or anything. But that was about 10, 12 years ago, and now I can move my arms, I can move my neck, and I can obviously walk. And so this is a true miracle, and I think God saved me for this end time so that I could help Brian fulfill what he's got to do. Because, see, when he was 17, God called him to full-time ministry. I can't believe it. And I wasn't there. And what happened is, during a youth group meeting, during a prayer group, an intensive prayer group, which we need more of, intensive prayer groups, he was in a very, very intensive teen prayer group meeting, and during tongues and interpretation, 2 people verified through the interpretation that someone here is called full-time into the ministry. And there was only like 6 people standing there holding hands together, and it wasn't the leader. There was an adult leader, and it wasn't like 2 of these other joker kids. It was Brian, because Brian was filled with the Holy Spirit. And so it was verified by 2 different people during tongues and interpretation. I don't know if you believe in the gifts of the Spirit like that, if they're still in operation or not. There's a big debate over that. We know that because we're in school at Liberty. We're finishing up, thank goodness. By December, Brian will have his Master of Divinity, specializing in chaplainship. So that's what we're working on right now, and that's where he is right now. He's at a chaplain meeting, training that he has to go to every Thursday. So that's when I fill in for him. And I'm not good. This is not my calling or training and to be in front of the camera. I'm behind the scenes, but I am here. And that is due to Bill Faywell, because I was just going to have reruns played, and I emailed Bill and I said, you're not going to be on this Thursday or the next or the next. We had him scheduled all these Thursdays because Brian will be gone. And Bill said, Bill emailed with kind of a mean email. He said, what kind of person, don't you have more in you than that? I mean, you can do it, Mo. Get in front of the camera. Don't just play a rerun. Let the people see and hear you, because, like I said, people need to see and hear us. It makes you guys feel comfortable. It makes you guys feel like everything's all right. And we have just heard the song that everything's not all right, and everything isn't all right. Let me tell you something I'm dealing with. Maybe you guys are too. Nobody's calling in. The number 661-449-9924. I wish more people would call into the show, but since we have the guests so much, it's not, good to interrupt. The way Brian works. He really gets into his guests, and he's not so good with the multitasking as I am. So anyway, but I forgot what I was gonna say, but Anyway, so we're finishing up, and like I said, Bill Faywell emailed me and said, "You have it in you, Mo. You got this far. You can go one more step further." And so that's why I'm here. So that's why I said, "Okay, then, Bill, you got to show up on the Thursdays." And he's been forgetting lately, so I hope he doesn't forget tonight. He's supposed to be on at 7, because tonight's going to be really interesting. I want to know his take on really what's going on with this whole campaign and who's going to win. I'm afraid. Oh, here's what I've been dealing with. Maybe you guys have too. And here's what I need help with. And I've been praying about it, but not real pray. Just like when I walk around, I ask God this. But I really wonder sometimes if we did the right thing, if we're really in the end times, if we did the right thing by doing a radio show. We've been doing this for a year. It takes a lot of time and energy away from other things that we need to be doing. But this was Brian's calling, was to be an end time, was to be a preacher, and who knew that he'd be preaching basically to the whole world. I mean, we don't know all the downloads. I mean, I know how many downloads we get. So in some cases, we're getting over 1,000 downloads, which is great. Some cases we only get 200 downloads from our archives, but they increase every day. So even our ones from Israel, I check on those, and they've increased. People go back and look at the titles. Troy taught me to title what I'm going to talk about and who's going to be the guests, because it makes it more interesting and easy for the readers and the followers and the congregation to see who they want to hear. So, like tonight, I'll have to relabel it if my first guest doesn't show up, and take his name off and just say Mo Rambling. That would be the title of it. I'll get a lot of downloads that way, though, because people want to see what I was rambling about. So that would be fun and interesting. But anyway, here's what I deal with. Are we really in the end times? Now, come on. Are we? I mean, we know the seals. We know all this, but everybody's just going about doing their thing. And Troy knows the difficulties that Brian and I face with this question. I mean, we've done a lot of changes in our life. Brian quit his job at the post office to do ministry full time. And believe me, he is doing this full time. We're in 8 classes. Now, that's insane. It was 6, but now they're overlapping because we started 2 more. So we're like up to 8 classes. We're finishing 2. We'll be down to 6 or 4 or whatever. It's an astronomical number. And so what I do is I just help him get organized. He's the one who's got to do the he did 3 sermons last night. If you want to hear them, go to www.blogtalkradio.com/Radio Preacher Man. He had 3 sermons last night. He got those done and completed. And the first time he did it for the class, if you remember, I don't know if you do, he did on Joseph, and it took the full hour. And so he learned how to, this is what classes are all about. You learn, and you get feedback from your instructor, and the instructor said you can't spend a whole hour on a sermon. Well, you can, and that's how the book enacts when they had church. However long it lasted. But he wanted to get all these 3 done, so he did 3 last night, and they're really, really good. Believe me, they're good, because I heard him practice, and then I heard the real deal. So you'd be quite blessed by going there. One other thing, so I'm dealing with this. Are we really in the end times? That's why I like the Hagmans, to listen to the Hagmans, who are on right after us on the Christians United Broadcasting Network.com or ChristiansUnited.tk. I want to know, are we really in the end times? There are plans that we have, but are we going to be able to do them? I mean, up north, I hear that must just be Troy. Up north, they are facing, blackouts, I think, and I don't even know if they have running water. Oh no, I did hear that they should not be drinking their tap water. So now, how do you boil water if you don't have any electricity? I mean, this is awful, and it's affecting, I think, millions of people. I don't know the facts. I'm not up there. Like I said, I hear what's on TV, but I would get a checkup on with the Hagmans. Now, we don't watch TV much at all. Actually, we only have one TV in the house, and that's only for when we want to go to sleep, because it's true. It releases alpha waves, which are low frequency waves, and it makes you tired, and it makes you in a daze. That's why if you stick a kid in front of a TV, they're like, their mouth, you gotta close their mouth. They're like, that's how Brian is at night. And when I go in there, he's always in there with his Bible, but we always watch something like home makeover shows or the Weather Channel. We don't watch any garbage, and we don't even go to bed till about 2 anyway. So whatever's on that late, the home shows where you look at 3 or 4 houses and you got to choose which one, or do you want to buy your house or sell your house, or do you want to remake it over and things like that. We watch that kind of shows. But anyway, so are we in a real time? I mean, are we in the end times? When I go in there, if I turn on my TV right now, it seems like everything's normal. And then when I have on my guests, they're all the end time information, but it just seems like everything's the grocery stores are full, and here, not up north, and it just seems like the drought didn't really affect us, and but our guest last night or the night before said that we will be having another drought this year, and that we will have no crops again this year. That there's already that prediction. That was from a guest last night before Brian did his sermons, or the night before. I don't know. You can check on blogtalkradio.com. But yeah, the guests knew all about weather patterns and weather modifications and things like that. So he went into how they're going to drought us out again and starve us out. Also, I heard that up north, that people are now, again, could be propaganda, because I heard it from a very popular show today, that up north that they're actually looting and killing and going into people's houses and stealing and things like that. And I am afraid about that. I'm afraid about that part of the end times if things get like that. That's why we're looking at moving into a different home, and we know which house that we do want to buy. But I don't know if it's still for sale, and I don't know what's going on there. But we do have a home that we want to move into and that we're ready to move into. We had lookers at our house today. Our house is on the market, and they really, really liked it, and they're going to put in an offer, but it's going to be too low, and we're not in that big of a rush. It's closer to where Brian has to be on Thursday nights, because going to Orlando is ridiculous from Lake City, every Thursday night. He's got to do this for 22 weeks, which is almost, he's got to do it for about a half a year. So anyway, we want to move closer to his training, because there's a possibility that they will offer him a job there also at this Orlando place. It's the Orlando Hospital, but it's called something else. It's not called the Orlando Hospital. But they do have chaplain training there, and there's only 2 places in Florida that offer chaplain training, and you have to have that on top of your master's degree. So that's what Brian does and is doing, and we probably should have stuck with that instead of doing some of the other things we were doing. But you can never be too prepared either. That's the other thing. We get prepared, and then we eat all the food that we got prepared for. So, and Standeo, that happened to Stan and Holly. They said, no more. We're not buying any more food. We're done. And then just recently, I was talking to him, and he said that he and Holly actually went out and bought more food, from like radiopreacherman.shelfreliance.com. We sell all sorts of survival stuff. That's supposed to support our ministry. It's our little store that we run, and it's called radiopreacherman.shelfreliance.com, and they sell flashlights and everything else that you need for the survival stuff. They even sell these really cool like rocks that you burn, and they burn forever and forever and forever and forever and forever. So they never like go out. It's not charcoal. They're like little rocks, and they're used to either start a fire. You can put it at the bottom of a fire. They don't burn like a big fire. They're little rocks, but they get red hot, and they're good to heat up your hands and things like that, and they're good to cook over and whatever. So you can go to radiopreacherman.shelfreliance.com, and in the lower left it says shop now, and that's where you click. Or you can click join now under the right hand side. It says join, and we'll get in touch with you, and then you can be a partner with us. We are under Ray Gano, Gano, who's been on our show, and I think he's also going to future Congress. And so anyway, the Hagmans are having on Doc Marquis sometime this week or next week. I'm not quite sure. We've interviewed him. He's a friend of our show. We've interviewed him 8 times, but he's a real cool guy. He's an ex-Illuminati. He was born and raised into the Illuminati, and so he knows all about it. He broke away from it, so he knows all the little secrets and plans, although their plans change as our prayers go up and God gives us a little bit more time. So the weather's getting bad. We've had on Alfred Weber, who talks a lot, and Bob Ryland, and others who talk a lot about Nibiru. And there is, like Joe Hagman says, there is something going on in the skies. You can look, and it's different. And we're not just talking about the chemtrails. The moon's different. Things are shifting. Everything's different. And why is it a secret? Why did they have to come up with so many different names like Planet X and Nibiru? Obviously, that's like a little, not a conspiracy. The conspiracy theories are the truth. What's conspiracy is what you see on TV. That's a conspiracy. That's a big lie. And that's what everybody's got their money still in the bank and doing the banking and stuff. We got to get ready, because at any minute our dollar is worthless, and we have no gold in Fort Knox or anywhere else. So our dollar is fiat. It's going to become like that. I can't think of the name. You know what I'm talking about, where the dollar became worthless, and they actually had wheelbarrowfuls of money to go buy a loaf of bread. Now that sounds like the end times to me, where it says, a whole day's pay for a loaf of bread. And that I can see that happening here in the United States. I really can. One more year of drought, and there's not going to be Fritos and Doritos and everything else made of, corn syrup, because there's no corn. All of the corn died, so there was only like a 20 or 30% of a harvest this year. The rest of it was nothing. We know that too, because Brian's dad is a farmer in Indiana, and Brian's mom works on a farm too. She helps with the harvest. Well, this year there wasn't anything to harvest, but the corn cobs were only, when you opened it up, they're only about, Brian's dad said, they're only about 2 inches long, and there wasn't any kernels or anything. They didn't pollinate. So since they didn't pollinate, then there's not going to be enough crops for next year, because new crops come up too, and obviously they plant crops. Also, with Monsanto and the GMOs and everything else, they're going to make it illegal to put down non-hybrid seeds, and they're going to make that illegal, where you're just going to have to buy everything or take everything from the government. So now Rick Wiles, what he saw and why he quit his job at TBN, he saw in his vision in the chapel and at the Trinity Broadcasting Network place where he worked under all those bigwigs there. He was in marketing. Well, God called him into the chapel, and he fell on his face because he met the glory of God. And God told him that the shelves of his
trophies, at last I lay down, and I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown.
I suppose. I'm talking. All I did is ran to the bathroom as fast as I could, and now I'm back. Okay. Hi, guys. Preacher Man. Anyway, so I'm taking Brian's place because he's at training right now. But so I opened up my Bible and I turned right to what I wanted to read, right what we were talking about before the break. Thanks for letting me take a break, Troy. That was nice. of you. I didn't know you were going to do that. Thank you so much. I needed that. 7 o'clock one too. I should be having a guest at 7. We'll see if anybody's here yet. Nope. Anybody can call in 661-449-9924. I wish more people would call in. But anyway, share with what's going on with your heart. I should sure could use the company. Anyway, my words aren't coming out right tonight either. I needed more sleep. I didn't get it because somebody had to come look at the house. So we had to get out there and sweep off the porches and things like that instead of sleeping. So anyway, but that's what you got to do when your house is for sale, I suppose. And like I said, we have plans, but God's the one who's really in charge. He's in charge, he's in charge, he's in large, he's charged, and he's large and in charge. That's what Brian says. Okay, so I opened it to Isaiah 47, and maybe somebody can help me understand exactly what this means. I do know that many of our guests believe that America is Babylon or the daughter of Babylon. So many of our guests who are prominent experts, that's who we usually have on the show, is prominent people. I try to get the best for you guys, and I really do. I try. I work so hard for the show to try to help spread God's good word. And like I said, some people aren't exactly on the same page as us, but we've got to learn, especially what the enemy's plans are too. So one time we had on a remote viewer who's in charge of teaching remote viewing. His name is Russell Targ. And he enjoyed the show because Brian is accepting and he's empathy and things like that. So he doesn't get down on people. He accepts what they're saying, and then he asks them to come to Jesus. And the few people who are not Christians who've been on our show won't come back on because of that. We get emails back that say, they're a little bit too Christian for us. So, and I think the Hagmans faced the same thing from some of their clients, and so do we. We face that often. I'll ask a metaphysicist to come on, or a physicist, an astrologer, physicist guy, and they'll deny coming on. They will not come on a Christian show, and which is a shame because we do all need to learn. We need to learn this Bible, and we need to learn really what it means. That's one reason why we went to Israel, is so we could learn Hebrew. And so whenever we're doing whatever and we run into a word, we can look it up in the Hebrew and see exactly what it means, And so we get the correct interpretation of what the verse means. We got to remember that the Bible was written 2,000 years ago, and that it was written in a different culture, a different time, and we have to learn this. God said that his festivals and feasts last forever, and so do his 10 commandments, forever and ever and ever. So we need to learn these feasts. Instead of Halloween and Christmas and Thanksgiving and all these fake Illuminati holidays, satanic holidays, we need to learn Christian ways. And I'm afraid it's found in Leviticus, and we are not taught that in the Bible or in their churches. We're writing a paper right now on the difference of churches with walls and churches without walls. We call our broadcast a church without walls because this is a church. We learn about Christian and some non-Christian things, and we try to put it all together like pieces of a puzzle, as I said before. And y'all got a little piece of the puzzle. Y'all are a piece of the puzzle. We're all one body. We're all brothers and sisters. Isn't that crazy? And we really are, because there was only, 8 people on the ark. So, and I was wondering, too, if that flood up north, if that was kind of God's sign of Noah's ark, the flood. You know what I mean? You got to kind of put things together. Is that a little sign from God, saying, hey, remember when it rained and rained and rained and it didn't let up for 40 days and for whatever, and it didn't let up and didn't let up, and everybody died. So except for the people who were saved on the ark, and it was Noah because he was the only righteous one. He was the only one whose DNA was not affected by Satan. Satan has been trying forever to get into Jesus's bloodline, and that's why they give the genealogies in Matthew and Mark, the genealogies of Jesus, to show that he is truly the Son of God, that he truly is, his lineage truly is from righteous, upright people. So, and that Mary was a virgin girl, a virgin young woman, who was called by God himself to carry our Lord and Savior. And boy, what an honor that would be. Wouldn't that be crazy to know that you're carrying the Savior? And how would you yell at Jesus when he got lost that time? He was stayed back when they went there for a festival, one of the major festivals, I think Passover. I'm not quite sure which one. Anyways, and they traveled in groups and with their neighbors and things like that, with their camels and their horses and whatever. And they were traveling in big groups, and they got to Jerusalem. We went to Jerusalem too when we were in Israel. Boy, that's another whole story. But anyways, they got to Jerusalem, and they had their little feasts and ceremonies, and they did their little killing of the purest, lamb that they could find, and things like that. And Jesus was only like 12 years old, or a little bit older, and his parents took off to go back all the way home on their camels and with their neighbors and friends. And they get halfway home, and they're like, where's Jesus? Where's Yeshua? Where's our little boy? And so they had to go all the way back, and they found him. And he said, can't you see I'm at my Father's house? Now, when he said that, and he was teaching the rabbis, and they were astounded by his knowledge. Now, that hurt Joseph's feelings. We wrote a paper about this because he said, can't you see I'm at my Father's house? Joseph had to come to grips with the fact that he loved Jesus so much. It was his son, but that it really wasn't his son. And that's how we got to treat our kids. I learned that now that my kids are adults. I was given their souls to raise, and their bodies, of course, but God just lent them to me. And then now that they're gone and they're on their own and doing their own thing, amen that my son is actually in ministry school. I'm so proud of him, Dominic. If you're listening, I love you, baby. And it's great that my children, it did stick with them. I'm not saying that they're perfect by any means. They do make mistakes. I have 3 daughters, God, and their hair is down half to their waist, blonde hair. They're beautiful girls, and they're all little like me. They're 18, 19, 20, and Dom's 22. Dominic is 22. So they're all adults, and they all got really, really cute bodies. And we went to the beach last week with them, and they were in their swimming suits, and I just wanted to put on a whole scuba gear thing on them so that nobody could look at them. I mean, they're in their little bikinis, but they're good. And I was actually writing a sermon helping writing the sermon while we were at the beach, and the Bible I was using is all torn apart, and half of it started blowing away down and they had to run and grab Genesis, and one grabbed Revelation, because the Bible that's in our car is pretty banged up, and it's in pieces, actually. And so I was writing this sermon, and I had part of it in my hand, and the other part was flying down the beach, and the kids are running after. I'm like, you go grab Genesis. AJ, go grab Revelations. So anyway, I was helping Brian write his little sermon, although Brian was having more fun in the water. And the water seemed cold to the girls, but to us, it seemed warm because they're more used to it during the summertime, and it's October. So, and that's another thing. It's only October, and they're already getting snow up north and things like that. So you can tell that this is going to mess up our crops for next year, because it shouldn't be this cold. I'm sure the seeds are all dying and whatever. You know how it. Well, it's not right. So anyway, something bad's going on up there, and we'll find out more with the Hagmans. But anyways, let me get to where I opened up to Isaiah 47. It's a little dark in here, so it's hard for me to read, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. And if anybody wants to call in and help me decipher what this means, at 661-449-9924 is the number, 661-449-9924. I can answer the phone, so I'm all set. Okay, I turned to Isaiah 47. It's called The Fall of Babylon. This is what I opened up to. And it says, "Go down, sit on the dust, virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground without a throne, daughter of Babylon. No more will you be called tender. No more will you be called delicate. Take your millstones and grind flour. Take off your veil. Lift up your skirts. Show your legs and wade them through the streams. Your nakedness will be exposed, and your shame uncovered. I will take vengeance. I will spare no one. Our Redeemer, the Lord Almighty, is his name, is the Holy One of Israel. Sit in silence. Go into the darkness, you daughter of Babylon. No more will you be called queen of the kingdoms. I was angry with my people and desecrated my inheritance. I gave them into your hand. I gave them into your hand and showed them no mercy. Even on the aged, you had a very, very heavy yoke. You said, I will continue forever. I will continue to be the eternal queen. But you did not consider these things or reflect on what might happen. That's what God said. So he said, you had it going on. You were my daughter. You were my daughter of Babylon. And I was just telling you about my girls and how I wanted to cover them up with scuba gear. I wanted the whole mask. I wanted just to throw a big old scuba gear thing on them, so that scuba suit, so that nobody could see their flesh, And Jesus is saying right here, you used to be my daughter. You had everything. You had all the delicacies. Now take everything. Take your flour. Take it. It doesn't mean anything anymore. You can't use it anymore. And take off your veil. Lift up your skirts. Show your legs. Bare your legs. And wade them through the streams. Your nakedness will be exposed, and your shame uncovered. I will take vengeance. I will spare no one. Now, that's what he says. Our Redeemer, the Lord Almighty is his name, is the Holy One of Israel. Okay, so what I take out of this is when he says, I will spare no one. But then the very next verse says, our Redeemer is the Lord Almighty, and that's his name. So I think it's saying to me that when we are facing whatever is coming our way, we need to call on the name of Jesus to get us out of that situation and to take away and to scare away the demons, because the demons cannot handle the name of Jesus. We've had on exorcists before. Everett Cox is coming back on, demonologists, exorcists, and whatever you want to call them, demon busters. So we've had on a few different ones, like I said, Everett Cox, and we've had on Demon Busters, that's her name. And of course we've had on Jackie Grissom, who's into prophecy, and he studies all this all the time. And some of the people say that we are the daughter of Babylon. Some say we are Babylon. And but if you call on the name of Jesus, then I think you're going to be okay or safe. Or even if you die and you're calling on his name, I think you got an automatic ticket to heaven. I mean, if you're a believer. So, call on his name. I do that when I'm outside at night. sometimes I go outside on the back porch. We have a little back porch. It's kind of screened in, and whenever and we kind of have woods in the back. So there's a lot of animals. You hear a lot of noises. Sometimes I see lights flashing too through the trees. So I don't know if somebody's back there taking pictures once in a while, or what. That happened at another house we lived in, actually. Somebody was taking pictures of us. So, and they even showed us that they did it. So we busted them. And it was an insurance. It was an insurance person spying on us. And I kept seeing these flashes of light, and Brian finally saw them too. I said, Brian, look, there's lights flashing from the behind us, the house behind us, behind the fence, over the fence. You could see the flashes of light. And I finally confronted the man, and sure enough, he had a whole file on me and everything I did for about a month, and it was for insurance. And, it's not like I'm out there doing cartwheels. I'm out there sitting down, and he could tell I was having, in all the videos, I was having a hard time walking, and even opening up. Sometimes my hands don't work, so I have a hard time opening up the handles of doors and things like that. So thank God that I was disabled and showed my disability, because he had to turn it in to the insurance people to prove that I was still not able to work properly. And that's how it is back here. When I go outside, it's not like I run down the stair, and we have 2 steps. I don't run down the steps and do cartwheels and backflips. I sit out there, and I barely can make it sometimes. So sometimes I even have to, Brian, you can hear me call. Sometimes when he's on the air, I get stuck outside. So I yell for his help once in a while when he's on the air. But I can't help it. I'm stuck outside. But anyways, at night here, I see sometimes, not often, and I'm not seeing things, but I'll see flashes of light that looks like a camera. We live on what backs up to a golf course. So whoever needs or wants to take photos of us has permission from the golf course. Believe me, they get permission to do whatever they want. And I think, if we are in the end times, and if people are watching us, then, who knows? But I call in the name of, and I also hear a bunch of animals. We have a raccoon, too, that comes right up to the screen, and he's even getting brave enough to where he hops up on the screen with his big paws and looks at me and it's dark out. And we also have an armadillo. So I bought all these cages for Brian to catch all these animals. Squirrels. We got over 20, 30 squirrels in the backyard. And I bought these cages for Brian to put up, and he's too scared to catch the animals. All you do is you catch them, and then you put on a glove. It's got a handle, and you carry it. And then, because I don't want to shoot the animals, and then you take it down the road, and I'd release it in a safe park. We have a park, and I'll release the raccoon and the armadillo. God, the armadillo is nasty and is big, and he's nasty, and you see his beady eyes at night, especially when you get a flashlight going, and you got the beady eyes looking at you. So, just all the late night animals, snakes. The late night animals, now that's getting colder, I don't see just as many, but they're noisy too. They make a lot of noise at night. And so I call in the name of Jesus to protect me, because I don't know, what it is, who it is. Believe me, we live in a dimension, but there are many dimensions and frequencies, and only a few frequencies up from us is angelic and the demonic areas and arenas. So what we see in our 3D right now, there's actually like 10Ds. I guess the other night was talking about that, how many dimensions there really, really are. And there's a famous song, seeing that Illuminati always comes up and tells you what it is. When the moon is in the 7th hour and Jupiter arrives with Mars, then peace will and love will fill the world. This is the coming of the age of Aquarius, age of Aquarius, Aquarius, Aquarius. So anyway, they give you clues that we're coming into the age of Aquarius and things are going to happen. And or has all this been a big psyop? That's my question. So, but I opened up the book to the fall of Babylon, and also come out of her, my people. Some of our guests say, you got to flee. Some say you got to stay. So I think everybody needs to get on our knees, all of us too, me too, and find out where God wants us and what we should be doing. Should we be living in the country? Many are. We have many friends, and people that have been on the show that tell you how to do the banking overseas and how to get your 401k out and your all that. Steve Quell talks all about that. Get your money out of wherever you're working and take the hit. That's what they say. And that's what he says, and that's what some others say. And then when you do that, then everybody thinks you're a nutcase. So, and then when you do that, nothing bad happens, and the banking is still going on as normal, but nothing's normal anymore. Then, because I'll tell you what, when we went to Israel, we really had to get ready. And that's when Brian was thinking about quitting his job, because it was a full-time job just getting over to Israel, because we had to get our passport. Then we had to get our birth certificates, real ones. Then we had to go through what's called an apostille, something like that, process, where you actually have to prove that your marriage certificate and your birth certificate is signed by a real person. So you can Google it. It's apostille, apostile, something like that. It's almost like an apostle. And that's probably what it's called, apostle. It's apostilled, and so you got to send it away, and you got to pay for that, and then they prove that your marriage certificate is really real, and then they prove that your birth certificate is really real. So we had all that takes time, and it takes a lot of effort to go into and find out, and we're both born in different states, and so you have to write to the state attorney general and all these things, but then you don't want them to know where you're going, but you have to tell them in a letter where you're going, and it's only good for one country at a time, the apostille thing. So if you get busted somewhere and you need to show your birth certificate, and they say, well, that could be not your real one, we want the apostille one. Well, let's say you had it done for Ecuador, but you're in Israel. So anyway, see what I mean? They're starting to make it so you're getting trapped here. And then come January 1st, if you owe the IRS, I think it's right now it's $50,000, but I'm sure they'll come down to $50. You're not allowed to leave. So see, they're making the laws harder and harder for, excuse me, my phone's ringing. They're making it harder and harder. Is this Dell? Hello? Hello? Hang on, guys. I got my other computer. Hello? Are you Dell? Okay. I gotta go. What? Okay, I gotta go. I'm on the air. Thank you. Okay, I got a caller. I'm going to take live right now instead of a caller on my phone. I'm sorry about that, but my other computer right now is being, Dell has total control of my other computer. They're on it. And they said they'd be calling me whenever they have to shut it down, and I have to put in my password. It's 7:59. We're going to take a break. I believe this is Bill Faywell. So, is it 7:59? Runner. 6:59, actually. Let's see who this is. Hello, who is this? This is Monique, the radio preacher man's wife.
Hey, Mo, this is Bill.
Hey, Bill. Hey, we're going to take about a 3-minute break, if you don't mind, and then we'll start our thing. And I want to talk about the floods up north and what's going on and how that's going to affect the elections, if you want to talk about that, too.
All right.
All right. Okay, we'll take about a 2 or 3 minute break. It's about 7:59 now because I've been blabbing for about an hour. And then
that day they were first. There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away, and in that day they will mourn. In that day they will fast, and they will say that things as they are not okay. When someone is missing, someone is absent, yeah, they will say things as they are not okay. When someone is missing, someone is absent. There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away.
Hey folks, Radio Preacher Man for Self-Reliance. These are hard times, and it could get harder. You've seen the droughts, you've seen the floods nationwide, worldwide even, so 7 billion people gotta eat, so don't be left out with nothing to eat. Get yourself some victuals put back on the shelf. Now I got a product I want to tell you about. It's called Shelf Reliance, and this is good food. You can use it on a regular basis. Get you some dehydrated food, and you got some easy prep meats. They got vegetables and fruits dehydrated, ready to eat as a snack, or you can reconstitute them for your cooking needs. You can get grains, bread, milk, eggs. It's a full line of food products, even dessert, such as ice cream and fudge brownies. Hello. So check it out at radiopreacherman.shelfreliance.com. That's radiopreacherman.shelfreliance.com. It's also a wonderful business opportunity for those of you looking to do something with your lives on the side, or instead of being unemployed, or whatever your situation is, brothers and sisters.
Things are not okay right now. Oh, things are not okay right now. Things are not okay right now. Jesus, things are not okay right now. Things are not okay right now. Things are not okay right now. Things are not okay, and they won't be till you come back. No, they won't be till you come back. No, they won't be till you come back. No, they won't be till you come back. Things are not.
okay, Bill, how you doing? This is Bill Faywell, who's author of The New American Revolution, who we really need to talk to right now because of what's going on. The New American Revolution, I'm to the constitutional overthrow of the United States government with a big reset button by William W. Faywell, Fawell. His website is and he signed it. I love that. I love it. His website is electanewcongress.com. So with that, welcome, Bill, and tell us what's going on. What's up?
Hey, Mo, great to be back. Thank you for the introduction. Actually, we had our first congressional candidate sign the petition. The first district in Iowa, Gregory Hughes, who's quite an expert on judicial reform, which we feel is important. I feel is important because the courts are the last place we go to when we're defending ourselves, but it's the first place we go to when we want to protect ourselves. So certainly justice is under pressure in America today, and so I did slate, but we're going to be pressing for Greg Hughes, who's running as an independent in the 1st District in Iowa. So that was kind of exciting. We had a little bit of flooding in New York, but I guess that's I think it seems, doesn't it seem like a very soft warning from God? He picks out the one of the most sinful places in America and just floods them instead of wiping them out. I don't think anybody got the message, but
oh my God!
Subtle.
I just talked about that before on the first hour. I said this is kind of a warning of God, of almost like Noah's Ark flood. He wiped out them then, but right now he gave us a warning, and also a warning to get prepared. All of us to get prepared, and still people aren't doing it. Bill, people here. I live in Florida. People here just going on about their business, not preparing, acting like, it doesn't affect me, so doesn't it? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess maybe he'll shake the tree a little harder next time then, won't he?
Yeah, exactly. Now, is this going to affect the elections or not? What do you think is going to happen?
No, the only thing that it gave President Obama a chance to look presidential. What I thought was interesting was Governor Krispy Kreme coming out and kind of giving the president a plug. He has his own. In fact, I was just thinking this today. I said, that rascal, he's got political designs of his own. I think he'd like to be president, but if Romney gets elected, he's going to have a bit of a hard time. So, Governor Krispy Kreme gets out there and does a photo op with Obama and kind of, making people think that, I'm not political. I'm, looking after the people in New Jersey. I'm not buying it. It's kind of a close race. If he can put a bullet into Mitt Romney's campaign and put the president over the top, it's kind of a no-lose situation for him. He'd have a wide open run in 2016, and he's made a friend with the president. Oh, that's I guess I'm cynical when I look at what people do in politics, but to me it was just too. It's just that's how I saw it.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I saw.
I saw him too come out, and boy, does he have a hard time walking. Because I'm not putting anybody down about their weight. I'm not, because I'm too skinny. Well, not actually. I've gained 30 pounds, thank God, in the last 3 months, amazingly. And you've helped quite a bit, Bill, for me to grow. By the way, I gave you attaboy the first half because I said I wasn't ever going to be in front of the camera, and your email said, yeah, you should. And then I have you on as a guest all the time. So, but I'm going to give you a break here coming up soon as I get other guests coming on. And you get the real deal in a few days. You got Brian coming up here in a few days, you and him. So, because he's a little more professional, obviously, than I am. But when I saw Krispy Kreme walk up there, too, boy, did he have a hard time walking. And they didn't show him from, like, the breast, the chest area down. They only showed him, because he's so big. He's just such a big guy. But do you really...
Well, I didn't, I don't have a TV, so I didn't catch that.
You don't have a TV?
Oh, no.
Wow. I talked about
TV
the very...
TV's, there's a reason they call it the boob tube,
Hey.
When you think of it, everything your mind does is to accomplish something. It has an objective, of action. And when you think of it, when you go to watch TV, it just kind of turns your mind off because your mind really isn't working on anything, trying to... it really doesn't have an objective. There's no real action involved. It's it's kind of hypnotizing when you figure that 80% of your information is, filtered through no more than 260 people that run all media.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's if anybody wants to talk about a conspiracy, that's the television set.
That's what I just said the very first half. I said, we're not the conspiracy. They are. The TV is. The only time we turn ours on, Bill, is when we want to go to sleep, which is never. Like at 2 in the morning, when I finally have to pass out, I'll go turn it on, just like the Weather Channel or one of those home building things, how to make your house nicer or whatever. And I'll turn that on, and within 10 minutes, Bill, I'm asleep because it has that hypnotizing effect on you. And that's the only time we watch it. And then Brian turns it off so that we're not listening to it subliminally while we sleep. But I did turn on the Weather Channel, but you can't even trust that, like you said. I don't even know really how bad. We really don't really know how bad it was up there. Was it really that bad up there, as they say?
I don't know. I'm not from around there, but I have some friends that work for some large education companies that have all their databases and everything in New York and in the New York, New Jersey area, and they're scrambling around, shifting files, having people run up, 30 flights of stairs to get special tapes to take back to some other place so that they can transfer them onto some conduits around the country so that they can keep running. And the backup, they go to the people that they've hired to provide backup.
Yes, sir.
I can't remember the name of the company. They told them they couldn't help them. I mean, these are large, multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies that have turned around and have gone back to their backup provider that they hired. The backup provider is telling them, sorry, I can't help you right now.
Wow.
So what's happened is all these geniuses out on the East Coast that know or from that area and want to have their hands on everything real close.
Yeah.
They set up their operations there on the East Coast, and so you have a number of these people, not only them but the backup people. They all went to Harvard. They all we're going to have it close to home instead of out in Kansas or somewhere in the middle of Illinois or Iowa or something. And they're scrambling right now, and they're going to have troubles for probably at least the next 6 weeks. Probably very close to right through the end of the year, trying to reroute and straighten all this stuff out. So that's where probably the biggest damage. Then there are quite a few people out without power. My folks live in the Chicago area, and during the summer, early in the summer, they got hit with a big storm, and they were out of power for almost a week.
Holy cow!
You're going to see, then it was really hot. Those were the 90, 100-degree days.
Yeah.
And but now it's the 40s and the 30s on the East Coast, and people are going to be experiencing the same thing. It's I'll tell you what, the big hardware store chains are going to be selling a lot of generators. But people will tough it out for about for the next 5-6 days, and they'll get everybody back on in that time.
Yeah, that's why everybody needs to go to Radio Preacher Man, shelfreliance.com, and at the bottom left-hand side it says Shop Now, and it has everything there, Bill. It has everything from generators to fire starters to those volcano stoves, that go up and down real easily, and of course the freeze-dried food, and water and water purification. And what's cool is a water purification straw where you can drink muddy water and it comes out purely clean, 99% clean of everything. So that straw is worth it. You guys, if you go to radiopreacherman.shelfreliance.com and just buy yourself a darn water straw, it's like for $13, and for sure then you'll have water that you can, because Steve Quayle and all them, I don't know if you know all them, Bill, but those are all our prophecy guys. They're saying that, the water that we walk through now is water that we will be drinking from in the future. That's what they say. Because, they can turn off the water, as you know, the government can at any time. It takes one flip of the switch,
Yeah, it's pretty hard to do. Most, those are municipal, and all politics is local, right?
Right.
Up to a certain point. And, maybe in big metro areas they could do that. But, most towns, if the government went and turned off the water for the local population, they'd go over to the mayor's house and, drive them down to the water plant and make them turn it back on. I guarantee you that.
Hey, who do you think's gonna? You know what? I'm really confused here, Bill. Who's gonna win the election? Is this Romney guy gonna win, and then everything's gonna seem a little bit normal, especially for the Christians, and because people don't know that Mormonism is satanic, so most people think, oh, he's a good Christian guy. I used to think that. I used to think Glenn Beck and all them were all right. But when we studied Mormonism more and more and had on some experts, they are satanic. If you're not for Jesus in his way, all the way, you're against him. There is no in the middle. And actually, if you're in the middle, he hates you and will spit you out of his mouth, vomit you out of him. That's what it says in Revelation. So what do you think about this Romney dude? Do you think he's going to win the elections, or do you think it's already done? Do you think the Illuminati's done with? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, we never have a choice running for president. I mean, it doesn't matter who wins. We lose.
Yeah.
That's always been the case for quite a long time here now. That's why, after writing the book, in order to put it into action, I started electednewcongress.com as a super PAC because I'm really focusing on Congress. It's hard for them to control 535 constitutional members of the Congress. It gets a little behind, but it's fairly easy to manipulate and just keep it down to two candidates for president. That they can control. And what they've done is they've transferred a lot of the powers from Congress to the president. Look at all the agencies that the president runs: Commerce, EPA, Education. It goes on and on. Those are all the powers of Congress. That's why I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm like a broken record. What we really need to do is to take Congress and focus on empowering all 162 million Americans, registered voters, to focus on, one issue, and that is Congress taking back all their constitutional powers as described in Article 1, Section 8 and 9 of the United States Constitution, because they don't operate those powers anymore. They've given them away. Congress is pretty much doing the state's job.
Right.
And what happens is that nobody really knows and understands what they're doing because it's so convoluted. There's nothing really cut and dried. You're not talking about, just as an example, they've taken their ability to regulate money and its value. They've given it to the Federal Reserve. And you've got basically a small handful of people making the decisions for everyone. So, and money is something that people understand, fairly easily. Everybody, that's something that everyone gets. But Congress doesn't participate in that anymore, so people don't get to see their congressman or their senator exercise their powers and represent their constituents in a situation that they can identify with. Instead of it's some convoluted 2,500-page medical or health program, something that's just so abstract. People really can't identify the actions of their representative. And that's why these people keep getting elected. It is because people can't identify what their representative is doing. There's no transparency. That's the transparency people need in order to be able to provide the consent to the governed when they go to the polls. Instead, they just kind of, well, he's a Republican or he's a Democrat. I like the Democrats, their program better than Republicans, or I like the Republicans more than the Democrats. But they're both criminals. They're both so strongly based and entrenched in a tyrannical government that like I said before on your program, it's they completely ignore liberty as if it doesn't exist. In fact, they don't even call tyranny anymore. They call it the system, and it's as if it's the only system, and that's how they operate. And it's that's not the truth. And my opinion and my observation has always been that the nation is going to have a revolution because a revolution is a governmental bankruptcy of its people. Under Obama, it will happen quicker. Under Romney, it will probably drag out a little longer. But I see the inevitability of a revolution in America as virtually guaranteed. And the only way to get around that is by creating that transparency and providing the consent of the government. Because when you have consent of the government, true consent of the government, when people actually elect and vote for their representatives and senators based off of what they know and understand that congressman or senator has done, that's when you get people, that's when people control the government, because now they're controlling their congressman and their senator. Right now, there's no control, because you have no idea what they're doing. We have no way to judge them because nothing's clear. They're not doing their job. And so everything's in abstract. So you just end up, kind of, well, he's a conservative. Well, he's a liberal, so that's how I'm going to vote. That's absolutely insane. It's going to maintain tyranny, and nothing's going to change in this country. And it doesn't matter if Romney or Obama gets elected. Nothing's really going to change.
Yeah, nothing is really going to change. It's just that Romney's going to drag it out for a little bit longer. Bill, when you say the word, oh my God, I can't believe I'm telling you this. Okay, I'm going to tell you. We are prepared, okay, to protect ourselves, Brian and I. However, we're not good with what we got. So every Saturday here in Lake City, Florida, the local gun shop has gun classes where they teach you the basics. Because, like, right now I have, let's say, a little pistol thing that I can shoot off 6 rounds, and after that, I'm done. I mean, I don't know how to change the clip. I don't even know where the extra clip is, to be honest, and things like that. And then we've got other things, but that's our right to carry. This is why we are supposed to have weapons. It's not only to protect ourselves, but to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government. And So I want to really learn how to work and operate everything that we have and all the different types that we have, and so that we're real good at it, and so that we're not fumbling around. When you say the word or when you say the word overthrow, the revolution, what do you mean? There's going to be blood in the streets? What do you mean? Do you think that it's going to be in our neighborhood and they're going to have flash mobs? What do you mean an overthrow? What's going to happen?
Well, the process that revolutions go through is that by the time everyone realizes there's a revolution going on, you've already gone through step one, or stage one. Stage one is when everyone is at the end, when everybody realizes there's a revolution.
There.
Traditionally, what happens is that when the government fails and it's lost its justification to govern, people get together with different factions, and they get together to form a new government. And when they do that, the mistake they make is that they go back to the exact same government that had failed.
Yes.
And what they do is they remove the people that were running that government and say, well, those people were bad. We're going to bring in new people that are good. And we're going to we'll get this thing back on the track. Mm-hmm. And the problem is, now there are two problems. The first problem is that it's the government interest, it's the government structure, it's the structure of the government that has failed. And the second problem is now you're bringing in new people that don't understand or know its particular nuances, and they can't operate it very well. And the third problem that rises during that second stage, when you're trying to reform a government, and you're kind of seeing this certainly in Libya, not so much in Egypt, but you're seeing it there because the Islamic, the Brotherhood, they're financed and directed out of Mecca with a lot of money from Saudi Arabia, Al Qaeda, through the Wahhabi family,
right,
which is the religious side of the kingdom. The Saud family handles the politics. Wahhabi's family runs the religious part of it. But what happens is that out of those factions that come together to create that new government, there are factions in the factions whose objective is to see the replacement government fail because they have their own agenda. So by the time you have a revolution and people know about it, you're done with step one. You've just gone into step two, where you put together a caretaker government, and that fails because, one, it's structurally unsound. Two, you've got people that don't understand how to operate it. And three, you've got people in there that want it to fail, and they could fail because they have their own program. When that replacement government fails, that's when you slip into violence. And it happens rather quickly. Everyone is involved, and no one can sit it out, because what happens is that it becomes if you're people will come out of the gun and say, are you for this part of the revolution? Are you for the reds? Or are you for the greens or the blues? Well, I'm not for anyone. I just want to sit it out. No, then you're an enemy. You've got to make a decision. And this is what happens. And so you start getting this polarization that doesn't always follow geographic lines or economic demographics. It's a very mixed bag. So you can that's how everyone gets dragged into it. And generally, the first thing that happens in that situation when the violence starts is because people get cut off from food or water, say in the big cities. There are shortages. Say they can't get gasoline or something.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be your poor neighborhoods. In your larger metro areas, what will happen is that some of these people that are more poor, that maybe dealt in drugs and understand and resort to violence just by nature. It's their neighborhood. It's how they are brought up. They will start kidnapping people or start robbing people in order to survive. Because once the grocery stores are cleaned out in an area like that, and I live in a very rural area, and it's kind of the breadbasket of America, so I don't expect shortages of food, but there will be other shortages. But in your big metro areas, when the grocery stores get cleaned out within 3 days, people are, you lose complete control. If you look in the Houston area after Hurricane Ike,
right,
you were having very, very nice neighborhoods being invaded by very, very poor neighborhoods that were, a mile away. And, they were able to recover because, Hurricane Ike was, just like Sandy, and, it passes and you continue on. The problem with revolutions, it's like a constant hurricane. There's forget about recovery in a week. It's going to go on, and you have these. Wealth is so polarized in this country that it opens that up to all these different groups and factions, and that's the kind of violence you get. Then people, they start. You might have elections or what system's going to run. And I mean, it can get absolutely crazy. And when it gets crazy like that, then other people who have some personal vendettas start getting into it. Everybody's capping each other, right? This guy, ripped me off legally in a court 5 years ago. I'm going to go shoot him. I mean, that sort of thing happens. So, I mean, it just gets crazy. You not only have your regular violence, you have collateral damage, just people taking an opportunity. It's if you really study revolutions, I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's the craziest time in the world, and people don't understand how dangerous it can be because they don't. We've been living without liberty,
right?
For a long time, but we've lived without a revolution much longer. Our last revolution was 1861. People don't remember that anymore. They never viewed it as a revolution. The one before that was 1776. So, people say it can't happen here in America. Well, yeah, it can. Mo, the interesting thing about revolutions is that not only are they when a government threatens its people with bankruptcy, it always occurs after a long, drawn-out, and unsuccessful military venture on the part of that government. France, they got involved in the American Revolution. They ran up huge debt. Russia got involved in the First World War, ran up a huge amount of debt. England, in their revolution, they had fought a war prior to their revolution. A lot of money was spent, and in 1776, it was a direct. 1776, our revolution, was really a direct result of the 7 Years' War, the French, which is called the French and Indian War here in the 1760s. So it's the one follows the other, and here, I mean, it's obvious America has been out on this neocon war for the last 10, 12 years, and arguably the neocons have been running this thing, First Desert Storm, where they goaded Saddam Hussein into the first Gulf War. The neocons, they go back to 1990, 1988. In fact, when you look at the people like Perlman or Wolfowitz, the Wolfowitz doctrine, they were students of a professor at the University of Chicago in Hyde Park, which is Rockefeller University, University of Chicago, Illinois. And his name was Leo Strauss. And Leo Strauss was born in Germany and managed to get over to the United States prior to the war. And his mentor was a guy named Carl Schmitt, who was a Nazi propagandist and a professor that justified Nazism. And he was in the Hermann Göring camp. And he kind of fell out of disfavor because he got in trouble with the Himmler, the SS, but Göring kept him protected. In fact, even after the war, Schmitt refused to renounce Nazism. Now, his star pupil was Leo Strauss. And basically what Leo Strauss taught his students was that the only way that you could control the people, and you need to control the people, is that if you have an opponent, you have to create an opponent for your country, some people that your country can hate. So in order for them to give up control over themselves to the government. This is their entire science. This is what Carl Schmitt learned and taught. He fit right in with the Nazis. He got Leo Strauss out of Nazi Germany in the United States. Where's he end up? University of Chicago. Teaching the very guys that framed and designed, our American neocons. And, if you look at the definition of fascism is when a government comes in partnership with big corporations.
Yes.
Which is the best way to describe America today. So you had the Nazis send one of their core people to the United States. He was picked up by the Rockefellers, put in one of the premier universities in America to teach the neocons how to be neocons. And these are the people that were hired and served in the, started in the Reagan administration and the George H. Bush administration, bounced around on the perimeter of the Clinton administration, then back in spades with the George Bush administration. And the neocons have been running foreign policy, or Nazism, since 1988. So we've been going on 24 years of neocons controlling foreign policy, and again, the objective is to create a boogeyman so that you can get the people to say, "Yeah, we'll give you what you need. Take what of power. You're there to protect us. We got to be the boogeyman." Yeah, that's what they've done with Iran.
Yeah.
The problem is Iran's not the boogeyman. The boogeyman is the Saudis and the Wahhabis. And those are the guys that we're protecting and we're paying money to, and we're using our military to drive their objectives. And their primary objective is the Saudi government since the turn of the century. They have wanted to take over the Ottoman Empire. After the First World War, they kicked it into overdrive. That's been their objective all along. So That means they have to conquer from Mali, where they have their, it's called Ansar Dins, is the Wahhabi, basically their Al-Qaeda operation there. In Syria, it's Al-Nusra, the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Al-Qaeda, we all know. In Afghanistan, it's Taliban. In Afghanistan, also Bam-Iyan. In Nigeria, it's Boko Haram. In Libya, it's Ansar al-Sharia and al-Watan. In Sudan, it's SPLA. Pakistan, it's AISI. In Indonesia, it's Jemaah Islamiyah. I don't know if I'm saying it. And in the Philippines, it's Abu Sayyaf, which is the Moros, back from the turn of the century. So, it's when we started this neocon war after 9/11, it was just Al-Qaeda, and now we've got, it's much larger. They've expanded. They spread their wings. They cover more territory. They have more organizations. We protect them. We give them money.
Oh, yeah.
And we operate our military to meet their objectives. One of their primary objectives has been, since the Prophet Muhammad died, is to bring the Persians under their thumb and kill them. Because the Persians, which is the Iranians, they're not the right kind of Muslim.
Right.
They're not the right guy.
Right.
And so, not only is American foreign policy and the neocons are Nazis, the greatest threat to America, but it's also the greatest threat to Israel. And Israel is doing exactly what the United States is doing. Bibi Netanyahu, the guy, I have absolutely no use for the guy. I think his brother is probably a great guy. And Bibi has been living off his brother's reputation ever since he died in the raid on Entebbe. And he's a neocon himself. He's the worst stripe. And they're supporting, they're feeding arms through Israel to Al-Qaeda and to Brotherhood. Israel is. And who wants to kill Israel? Mainly the Saudis. When the Iranians say they want to wipe out the Israel, they're not talking about Israel. They're talking about Zionism. They have no problem with Israel. The old Muslims, the Prophet Muhammad, had no problem with Jews, had no problem with Christians. That's why there are strong and vibrant Jewish and Christian communities in Iran. But they're totally persecuted anywhere that the Sunni, Wahhabi, Saudi terrorist network resides. We're fighting the wrong guys. We're fighting the guys that are our friends, and we're helping the people that are trying to kill us. And Israel is doing the same thing, and they're in cahoots with us doing it. The American people and the Israeli people ever woke up, they'd throw both their governments out. They'd go and invade Saudi Arabia. And I'll tell you, if America invaded Saudi Arabia tomorrow, there'd be instant peace in the Middle East. Because all the money for Al-Qaeda, for the Brotherhood, for Al-Nusra, for Ansar al-Sharia, Boko Haram, any of it, all the money would dry up. Because all the money in the direction comes from Saudi Arabia. It comes from the Wahhabis, and it comes from Mecca and Medina. But the money to do it all comes from Riyadh. And we send all the money to Riyadh. And we protect these people. I mean, it's crazy. And the darn thing is, this whole thing with Benghazi.
Oh yeah.
This is why Obama, if he's elected, this thing is just going to hit. America is going to hit the wall, and it's a virtual guarantee. We'll be going sometime in the next 4 years. We'll have a revolution, because if he gets reelected, he doesn't have to worry about getting reelected again, and so he's not going to have anything to restrict him. Now, the guy is so incompetent, and he's such a sellout that he looks and he says, "Boy, these guys, this Benghazi thing, we're going to get back at the people who did this, and the people here in America that let our people down while they were under attack, we're going to go after them too. We're going to find out who did that." Well, let me tell you something. When you have an embassy under attack for 7 hours, somebody goes to the president and says, "Mr. President, our people are under attack. What should we do?" Well, he chickened out, and he didn't do anything. He froze. So that's the kind of, and you look at our entire foreign policy everywhere all along, this has been constantly what's been going on with Obama. He doesn't have the guts. He doesn't have the vision. And then he says, no one's ever going to get punished for us not going and sending the cavalry in to rescue our people in Benghazi, because the guy that dropped the ball is the president.
Exactly.
So no one that's just going to get massaged away. But when he says we're going to go find the people and go after them and get them, once we figure out who they are, well, he knows just as well as I do that all these operations are being operated out of Mecca and Medina via the money from Riyadh. They know this. Bush knew it. Obama knows it.
Yeah.
And so you've got to start sitting there and say, okay, what is the motivation of these people? What are they thinking? What is their real objective? And it's oil, it's money. You look at everybody. I have a lot of liberal friends, and they say, "Well, look at the Romney campaign. It's all former Bush people." I said, "Yeah." He said, "They're neocons." Yeah. I said, "But look at everybody in the Obama administration. They're all from Goldman Sachs."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who would you rather fight, neocons or Goldman Sachs? I said, "They're both no good." I said, "But I said, I'll take a neocon over Goldman Sachs any day." And Obama, his foreign policy is an abomination. There's no foreign policy, and what foreign policy there is just it's mind-boggling, because the people we're supporting are the people that are trying to kill us, that have vowed to kill us, and that's who we support. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. It's insane. But I can tell you right now, they're not. Our president does not support the United States. I mean, it's not who he's representing. Or we would have invaded Saudi Arabia and shut down. You can't go into Mecca and tear the place up. You even cornered it off and isolate it, and you can drive into Riyadh and take it over. Western or eastern Saudi Arabia, which is where all the oil is. It's pretty much all Shia. The people who don't have a lot of money, they're oppressed. They have to work hard for a living in the oil business, and in the service end. It's all about oil, because the Saudis, the Sunnis don't want to do it. That's below them. Mm-hmm. So you take over, you invade Saudi Arabia, and the oil fields and eastern Saudi Arabia will fold their hand and say, "Great, glad to see you." And as soon as you do that, Iran will know that, hey, Saudi Arabia isn't there to try and kill us anymore. We can relax a little bit. And all these things would happen. And And what I'm telling you is no real big secret. People that taking a look at this situation and spend a little time at it, it's impossible to come to anything but that conclusion. And so, what are they doing? What are their motivations? Who are they? Who are they representing? It's certainly not the American people.
No.
And so that's the world we live in. What you think you see is not what's real.
Oh my God. Is there a way out of it? What's a way out? My God.
Elect a new Congress. You've got to elect a new Congress. We have to elect 327 congressmen that will take back the powers, their constitutional powers, and bring them back into the Congress, operate those powers in the public forum, create the transparency to allow for the consent of the government. That is how the people rule the government. That is the definition of liberty. So 327 congressmen, 75 United States senators. We win. Everything changes. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that will change anything. That's the only way to stop the revolution from happening in America.
Do we have enough good men and women who are ready to and do this for us?
Well, I'm kind of starting here, and I hope after the election, once people look around and see that the people they helped get elected, they spent millions and millions of dollars on for a small handful of congressmen or senators, some which won, some which might not win, and they realize how much money they spent getting nothing accomplished. Those are the people that I'm working on, because it takes money. What you really want to do, instead of spending millions of dollars on an audience of 650, 700, maybe 750,000 voters, instead of trying to convince 750 population in a congressional district to elect one guy, you take that millions of dollars that were spent on maybe a dozen campaigns, and take that money and educate all 162 million registered voters.
Yeah.
And as to what liberty is, how it works, and then solicit people that are good people that aren't clowns that won't embarrass you, but people that will put themselves on the ballot and will commit themselves to once they get to Congress, to voting to take back all the powers of Congress and place them all back in the public forum to create that transparency that's required to allow the people to provide the consent of the government, so that people rule the government instead of the government ruling the people. It's the definition difference between liberty and tyranny.
Exactly, and liberty is God. Hey, your plan, and I'm going to tell you this, I told you the last time that we interviewed you, God, I love it. That's why we keep having you on. Do you know what? You get thousands of downloads in the archives. Thousands of downloads on blogtalkradio.com/Radio Preacher Man is where the archive. Let me say it again. Guys, the archive for the New American Revolution, written by Bill and elect a new Congress, will be at www.blogtalkradio.com/Radio Preacher Man. And he was on last Thursday, and he's going to be on again, I think next Thursday, maybe, I'm not sure. And a couple of days he'll be on with Brian. And because we got to get this word out. But obviously, Bill, we're not going to do it in time for this election. So I think you need to update your book. And we'll have to update it.
I'm working on a second book. It's called A New American Reformation.
Oh, awesome.
The subtitle of it is After the Gold Rush, Utopia or Oblivion. And it'll deal primarily with liberty, and I'll get into the social issues that I completely avoided in New American Revolution.
Wow.
Actually, most of the book was written when I wrote New American Revolution. It's just that some of my editors said, you've got to cut this down.
Yep.
And one of my good friends said, you took so many pains to avoid the social issues that divide people. Why do you have them in your book in the end? And I said, you just solved the problem for me. I'm going to take them out. So because I'm listening to you, and you have a good point there, and it also answers the problem from some of my editors that said it's too long. So most of the book is already written, and the first part of it I'll be able to, as I'm writing these blogs, I'm doing this series of essays on liberty, which includes On Liberty, which just describes liberty, on liberty as it in restraint of government and spending, then liberty as foreign policy, and then the orderly removal and replacement of the Federal Reserve Bank. And it's one of the things that I've come to realize here, Mo, is that mankind, we've advanced to a certain point.
Yes.
And for mankind to move forward, it can no longer be encumbered by the central planning of tyranny. People, what they don't understand about central planning is that, one, it is very inefficient, and two, it is very expensive. Because they're taking care of all the money people that take care of the government. It's a quid pro quo. And I just today I was writing something, and I compare it to a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. And as long as we live in tyranny, in the
90 seconds.
We currently experience, in the world experiences, we're going to be stuck in the cocoon as a caterpillar. And the only way mankind is ever going to be able to emerge from the cocoon and spread its wings will be in liberty, where the individual is unrestricted. And it's more than just a governing issue and freedom anymore.
60
I'm
seconds.
slowly coming to this realization that it's, God will have to come. If God's going to come, He's going to have to come soon if the world, the earth, all its people do not embrace liberty. Because if we embrace liberty, there's a certain reality and realization that makes a lot of the problems, social problems, the moral problems we have in America and the world today exist. Because the reason people can develop social and moral inconsistencies is because they live, because we live in an inconsistent
10 seconds.
We live in a false environment.
We do. And Bill, we got to end the show. We're up. The show is already up. So we got to continue this. In a few days, you're scheduled with Brian. Bill Faywell, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for pushing me to do what I'm doing. Thank you for sharing your book and your new book. And God bless and you guys, electanewcongress.com. We love you, Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Mo. Bye.
Bye, bud. Okay, guys. I think I'm off.